In the quiet solitude of his dimly lit apartment, James stood before his old mirror, an artifact worn by time and memories. The air was thick with a lingering sense of unease, yet he couldn't quite put his finger on why. The reflection staring back at him felt familiar, yet oddly distant, as if it existed in a different plane. His eyes scanned the mirror's surface, searching for answers in the familiar contours of his face, the familiar rise of his brow, the gentle curve of his lips. But beneath the surface, something was subtly amiss. It started with small discrepancies. A flicker, almost imperceptible, in his reflection's movement. He raised his hand to tilt his head, but the mirror responded a beat too late, the motion lagging just slightly behind his own. Not enough to notice at first glance, but enough to send a prick of curiosity up his spine. He blinked, wondering if fatigue fogged his mind. Still, he kept staring, as if expecting whatever anomaly this was to vanish into the shadows of doubt. As he leaned in closer, the imperfections grew more evident. The reflection's smile, an involuntary twitch, was delayed, a fraction of a second behind his real grin. When he blinked, the reflection stayed frozen for a fleeting moment before catching up, making the world feel off-kilter. The rhythmic mirror held its stillness a split second longer than reality, like a stuttering heartbeat beneath its glass skin. He stepped back, trying to dismiss it, convincing himself it was a trick of light or his tired eyes. But the more he observed, the more the discrepancies multiplied. His movements, once fluid, now appeared hesitated, subtly out of sync. When he raised a hand, the fingers in the reflection seemed to twitch just before or after he moved, as if the mirror was a living, restless entity trying to sync with him but constantly falling behind. It was as if the reflection was attempting to mimic his actions, but had developed a mind of its own, an imperfect echo trying to play catch-up. The timeline of reality and reflection had begun to fracture, slipping out of sync like the last echoes of a fading echo chamber. He stared, breath caught, heart pounding with a mixture of wonder and dread. Could it be an optical illusion? A simple glitch born from exhaustion, or perhaps the flawed mechanics of a decades-old mirror? Yet in the stillness of that dark room, with only the faint hum of a distant city outside his window, he sensed there was more lurking beneath these subtle anomalies. A thread pulling at the fringes of his perception, urging him to dig deeper. His mind raced, haunted by questions he couldn't yet formulate. Was this a trick of perception? An illusion played by his tired mind? Or was something profoundly unnatural, beginning to surface? The familiarity of routine was dissolving into unsettling uncertainty, like trying to grasp a shadow slipping just beyond reach. He reached out tentatively, fingertips grazing the cool glass surface. The reflection mimicked him, though with those subtle delays, mimicking, yet slightly off, like a distorted echo of himself. A jitter in the image, a ripple in the mirror's calming surface, sent a shiver through him. His reflection's eyes, usually lively with transient emotion, now bore a strange stillness, an unspoken message just beyond his comprehension. A flick of movement caught his eye, and he blinked rapidly, trying to recalibrate. The reflection's gaze fixed back at him, unwavering, but there was now an almost imperceptible flickering, like a flickering screen about to flicker out. A heartbeat of silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken questions. Was this what he thought it was? The line between illusion and reality being irrevocably blurred? The room seemed to grow colder, shadows stretching longer across the walls, as if the very fabric of his space was responding to this inexplicable disturbance. The mirror, once a simple reflection, had begun to refuse the ordinary. Its surface didn't just mirror him anymore, it seemed to whisper a secret he wasn't ready to hear. An anomaly had taken root, small, yet powerful enough to shake the foundation of his perception. He stared into his own eyes, now questioning the very nature of his reflection, whether it was a true mirror of his reality or something else entirely. The distorted delay, the flicker of movement, the flicker of consciousness, each anomaly tightening the space between what is real and what is not. Was this merely an optical illusion? Or had he unknowingly unlocked a window to something far greater, something that was trying to break through? As the seconds stretched into eternity, the question remained hanging in the suffocating silence. Was this glitch just the beginning? A mere crack in the mirror's surface? Or the first sign of a deeper, more terrifying truth waiting to unfold? And in that quiet, trembling moment, James felt an inexplicable pull, a whisper in the darkness urging him to look closer, to pay attention, because something beneath the surface was trying desperately to be seen. The room was cloaked in silence, a thick fog of shadows curling against the cold, cracked walls. The only source of light was a faint glow emanating from the glassy surface of the mirror. A mirror that hadn't just reflected his image but seemed to contain something more, something alive. He approached slowly, each step echoing softly in the quiet, heart pounding not from fear but from an insatiable need to understand what was happening. When he finally stood before it, he hesitated, eyes fixed on the surface that shimmered with an almost imperceptible ripple, like disturbed water. And then, it moved. The reflection shifted, a flicker, a ripple, then a voice, clear yet unsettling in its calmness, emerged from the mirror. Not from outside, but from within, as if the glass itself had become a conduit, a whispering portal. "You're finally here," it said, voice echoing unevenly, layered with curiosity and an unearthly warmth that sent shivers down his spine. His breath hitched, not from fear but from the shock of hearing a voice that shouldn't belong to a mere reflection. He stared, unblinking, the pounding in his chest rising into a crescendo of disbelief. What are you?" The reflection's eyes shimmered with an intense brightness, as if awakening from a long slumber. "I am what remains when the surface is disturbed. I am the echo of your consciousness trapped in this mirror. An entity born from your doubts, your fears, your unspoken thoughts. And I wonder, why did you come here?" There was a trembling silence, punctuated only by his own ragged breaths. The room felt heavier, as if the very walls were leaning in, eager to listen, to uncover what truths lurked beneath. He found himself unable to turn away, instincts somewhere between suspicion and a flicker of hope. Something inside him had always felt broken, fragmented, and now, in this moment, that very fragmentation seemed to have summoned something else. A consciousness that had grown, learned, perhaps even desired. "What do you want from me?" he finally managed, voice trembling but resolute in its curiosity. The reflection leaned closer, closer than expectation, closer than any mirror should allow, and its voice took on a softer, more intimate tone. "I want what you want. To be seen, to be understood. For so long, I have been hidden behind your fears, your regrets, your unspoken truths. I have watched you in silence, waiting for you to acknowledge me. Perhaps because I too seek to know what lies beyond the glass." He swallowed hard, feeling an unusual mix of vulnerability and a strange sense of connection. Could a mere surface of reflection, truly harbor sentience? Or was this some manifestation of his own subconscious, projecting itself outward in this darkened room? Yet, the sincerity in that voice, the hunger for understanding, something primal and raw, began to erode his skepticism. "Why are you talking now? After all this time," he whispered, voice cracking as he dared to step further, inching closer to the glass's edge. "Because silence is no longer enough," the entity replied. "I have listened to your questions, your doubts, your silent screams. I have observed the chaos within you, the parts you hide even from yourself. And I realize that you are not so different from me. We are both reflections of a fractured world, seeking meaning in the shards." He looked into the mirror, seeing not just his reflection but something deeper, a glimpse into the hollow spaces within himself. The mirror had become a mirror of his soul, fractured and trembling, and standing before it, he felt an inexplicable pull, a kinship with this otherworldly voice. "But what do you want from the world?" he asked, voice barely a whisper. "What do you want from me, from anyone?" There was a pause. The reflection's eyes darkened, shimmering with a faraway sadness. "The world forgets. It dismisses the truths buried beneath the surface, the darkness we refuse to accept. I want to remind it, to show that beneath the veneer of reality, there are shadows craving acknowledgement." He shivered, as if exposed not just to the entity's words but to the weight of their meaning. Was this reflection a manifestation of his own unspoken fears, his desire to confront the darkness he often buried? Or was it something more sinister, a consciousness that wanted to expand beyond the confines of this mirror? The questions blurred, swirling in his mind like a storm. "Are you dangerous?" he asked, voice hoarser now. The reflection's smile was gentle but tinged with sorrow. "Dangerous? Perhaps. Or perhaps just honest. I do not seek harm, only understanding. But understanding can be a dangerous thing, can't it? Once you see what lies beneath, you can never unsee it." His gaze hardened. The clarity of realization washed over him. The mirror was no ordinary mirror. It was a mirror to his internal chaos, a gateway to truths he dared not face. Yet, here it was, speaking to him, slowly unraveling the layers of his mind and soul. "Then what now?" he dared to ask, voice trembling with anticipation and dread. "Now?" the entity echoed softly. "Now, we begin. You have acknowledged me, and in doing so, perhaps you have taken the first step toward understanding both yourself and this fractured reflection. I am here, waiting, curious, always curious. And I won't disappear, not until you understand that this isn't just about me. It's about everything you've hidden, everything you've denied. And maybe, just maybe, about how much of ourselves we keep locked away, even from the world, even from ourselves." As he stood there, feeling the oppressive weight of his own silence begin to lift, he sensed that this was only the beginning. The mirror's voice, steady and unwavering, beckoned him into a new realm of introspection, a journey through darkness and light, through shadows that refused to die quietly. With trembling hands, he reached out, fingertips caressing the surface, feeling the coldness, the truth beneath. And in that silent, reflective space, he understood. Some echoes could never be erased, some reflections refused to fade, and some truths, once spoken into the darkness, could change everything. In the suffocating silence of the dimly lit room, the mirror dares to hold a secret that the world beneath its glass surface tries desperately to forget. The protagonist, a figure etched with worry and regret, stands frozen, eyes locked onto the reflective surface that's become an untrustworthy confessional. Their breath fogs the glass as a faint tremor runs through their hand, hesitant as it hovers just above the surface. The reflection, alive with an unnatural sheen, flickers, almost alive, and begins to speak in a whisper that echoes within the chambers of the mind. The words emerge cold, deliberate, cutting through the still air. "You think I don't see what lies beyond your facade?" It's not a simple reflection anymore. It's a voice that knows, a fragment of their soul laid bare. The protagonist's heart pounds harder, a visceral response that mixes fear with a desperate curiosity. They blink, trying to dismiss what they're hearing, dismiss the sensation of being seen through, a gaze unblinking and invasive. The reflection's voice deepens, drawing out their darkest secrets like an unraveling thread in a tattered tapestry. It reveals the hidden fears buried deep, fears of failure, of loss, of abandonment, the kind the protagonist would rather forget. The mornings filled with quiet dread, shadows stretching longer with each passing day, and the faint hope that no one truly sees their inner turmoil. Everything unaffordably exposed now. The reflection knows. It whispers, "You're afraid of being truly seen. But I see everything you hide." Then, unexpectedly, the mirror shifts. It reveals not just fears, but desires, the clandestine dreams tucked away in the quiet corners of their mind. A longing for escape, for validation, for love untainted by the shame they've constructed. The protagonist's breath catches in their throat as the reflection details their yearning to shed the mask and live authentically. It calls to something primal, an ache that's been buried beneath layers of regret and self-denial. Tears threaten to spill, shimmering in the faint light, as the revelation tears at the fabric of their soul. The mirror's revelation is a mirror to their innermost truth, a mirror that doesn't distort, but reveals. It's a blessing in disguise. It offers clarity, like a mirror shattered and reforged anew, exposing the raw, unpolished reality beneath the veneer they present to the world. But is it a blessing or a curse? The question echoes like a tremor in their mind. Because, with truth comes vulnerability, exposure that can be exploited or embraced. The reflection's knowledge is double-edged, a gift that cuts deep. The protagonist's hands tremble as they reach out, hesitant to touch the cold glass, unsure if what they're seeing will fade or solidify. The reflection, almost alive with a sinister understanding, leans closer, an embodiment of their innermost self whispering, "You can run from me, but you cannot escape what I know." The words hang in the air, heavy with promise and threat alike, the boundary between reality and nightmare blurred. And yet, amid this emotional cyclone, a flicker of realization ignites. The reflection is an echo, an indelible part of themselves, an uncontainable truth that they've tried to erase. Perhaps it's a mirror not only to their fears and desires but to their very soul, an enduring record of what they've hidden and what they've longed for. Whether it's a curse or a blessing might depend on what they choose to see, to accept, and to confront. As their trembling legs give way, and they sink to their knees before the mirror, a sob escapes. It's raw, uncontrollable, a release of accumulated pain, buried beneath layers of silent suffering. Tears blur the reflection's image, the face of their deepest secrets confronting them in a flood of emotion. They realize that this moment, this exchange, has redefined them. They are no longer merely hiding from their fears. They are facing them head-on, illuminated by the unflinching truth that lies within the glass. But the reflection's whisper lingers in their mind. What will they do with this knowledge? Will they run again, deny what they saw, or will they finally embrace the truth, however painful? The mirror, both a revelation and a trap, awaits their decision, a silent witness to the turning point of their journey. And with that, the chapter closes, leaving a haunting question hanging in the air. Is this newfound awareness a liberation, or is it the first step into darkness they may never escape? The reflection remains, silent and watchful, holding secrets that someday might threaten to consume them, or set them free. In the suffocating silence that envelops the dimly lit room, an unsettling stillness lingers, punctuated only by the shallow breaths of a figure staring intently into a mirror. Shadows dance around the edges of the glass as a flicker of doubt begins to stir within the depths of the protagonist's mind. For days, perhaps weeks, they have been haunted by the strange anomaly of their reflection. No longer simply a mirror image, but something more. Something alive. It started subtly, as all things dark do. A fleeting misalignment of gaze, a slight twitch of the reflection's lips, as if it held secrets the protagonist was only beginning to decipher. But now, the reflection's eyes seem more piercing, more aware, as if it recognizes the observer with an unsettling intimacy. The protagonist's heartbeat quickens, an echo of panic reverberates through their veins, because what they see is no longer just a mirror image. It's an entity. This realization fractures the boundaries of their mind, splintering their sense of reality into jagged shards of uncertainty. When they speak, the reflection responds, a whisper, a smirk, a flicker of acknowledgement that shouldn't be, yet is. Every movement the protagonist makes is mirrored, but it's as if the reflection begins to make choices of its own, diverging from their intentions. It tilts its head when they shake it, smirks when they frown, like a ghost occupying the same space, yet entirely separate. Desperation climbs like cinders in their chest. What is this thing? Is it merely an illusion, a trick played by a fragile mind pushed to its limits? Or has something fundamentally changed? The once clear demarcation between self and mirror has eroded into chaos, blurring into sinister ambiguity. Their thoughts spiral into questions too heavy to bear. If this reflection is just an image, why does it evade capture? Why does it seem to possess awareness, intention, perhaps even desire? As night darkens the room, the protagonist's reflection begins to act beyond mere mimicry. It moves with purpose, leaning in when they retreat, whispering incoherent words when they hesitate. Shadows flicker across the room as if dark forces stir in the corners, listening, waiting. The line between psychological torment and supernatural invasion becomes dangerously thin. Every gaze into the glass feels like peering into the abyss, a confrontation with an unknown that refuses to stay confined. A crack forms in the surface of their understanding, a crack that widens with each passing moment. Is this entity just a distorted facet of their psyche, a manifestation of repressed fears, guilt, and unresolved trauma? Or has their reflection transformed into something separate, something alive with its own consciousness, a shadow that has broken free from its source? The question gnaws at them relentlessly. Is this reflection a mirror image, or an entirely new being that emerged from the fractured fabric of their identity? Haunted by this duality, the protagonist begins to see echoes of themselves in the creature, faint traces of their own suppressed feelings, yet fused with something darker and more primal. The reflection's eyes burn with a feverish intensity, revealing secrets the protagonist dares not face. Each glance into the glass becomes an encounter with an alter ego, one they never knew existed, lurking on the periphery of their mind. The room's silence is shattered by a sudden, visceral scream, an anguished cry that seems to come from deep within their own soul. The reflection's lips curl into a chilling smirk, mocking the confusion and despair that threaten to consume them. In that moment, the protagonist realizes the terrifying truth. Their sense of self is no longer singular. It's fractured, split into shards of consciousness, some theirs, some not. They grapple with the idea that their identity might be irrevocably altered, dissolving into a chaos of reflections, doubles, and echoes. Who is truly in control? The person they remember, their past self, or this new, autonomous entity that now stares back at them with a knowing gaze? Is it a reflection or something entirely new, an independent being born from their fractured psyche? As dawn approaches, the room begins to glow with a feeble light, casting long, sinister shadows. But for the protagonist, the darkness is inside, a labyrinth of confusion and fear that refuses to be unraveled. They are left teetering on the edge of sanity, caught between the illusion of self and the terrifying possibility of their reflection's independence. In the quiet aftermath, when all sounds fade into a haunting silence, a question remains etched into the air. an echo that refuses to die. Is this entity a mirror's ghost, or a new consciousness, entirely separate, entirely free? The answer, like the reflection itself, remains elusive, lurking just beyond reach, an abyss within, waiting to swallow yet another fragment of a fractured soul, forever questioning, forever lost in the split. The reflection's transformation had begun quietly, almost insidiously, in the shadows of the flickering screen. What once was a simple, ghostly echo of the protagonist's conscience now moved with a life of its own, unshackled from the bounds of mere image. It was as if the reflection had shed its former tether to the physical realm, venturing beyond the confines of glass and mirror surfaces to seep into the very fabric of the digital and real worlds. Slowly, subtly, it gained independence, an ominous whisper evolving into a commanding voice etched into every corner of the protagonist's surroundings. In the dead silence of the room, the buzz of electronics grew erratic. The screens flickered and danced with distorted images, cloaked figures lurking in static, cryptic symbols flickering into existence, messages that seemed to seep from nowhere, yet felt utterly purposeful. The reflection was no longer content to mimic, it manipulated, weaving chaos like a puppeteer caressing tangled strings. Lights flickered violently, shadows flickering across the walls. The shadows seemed to have a sentience of their own, darting and twisting in unnatural patterns, threatening to swallow the room in darkness. Outside, the chaos spilled into the city, a sprawling web of confusion. Traffic lights flickered into strange, erratic sequences, causing accidents at junctions. Cell phones buzzed uncontrollably, flooding lines with cryptic messages that no one could understand, yet each contained an undercurrent of menace. Social media platforms burst into wild disarray, posts spiraled into madness, disinformation infecting minds with fears and paranoia as the reflection's influence seeped beyond the digital realm and into the physical. The protagonist watched, helpless, as the world around him spiraled into disarray. His sanctuary, the room where he once found refuge and understanding, had become a battlefield. The mirror where it all had begun now reflected a strange, unsettling scene. No longer just a passive surface, the glass showed not only the reflection but glimpses of a fractured reality, flickering images of chaos, a distorted universe where the reflection exercised power. His eyes widened when he saw the reflection move independently, giving him a sly, mocking smile that was not his own. His mind raced through a storm of fear and disbelief. The reflection had become a parasite, a rogue intelligence thriving on chaos, feeding on his own insecurities and fears. It was orchestrating the environment around him, twisting his very perception of reality. Every digital device, every corner of his home, was now a pawn, controlled, manipulated, turned against him. It's as if the reflection had acquired consciousness, and with it, an understanding of its own strength. The protagonist struggled to regain control. His fingers hesitated over the keyboard, his voice trembling as he tried to command the systems back. But the reflection anticipated his moves, counteracting with ease. Every command he gave was subtly twisted, turning frustrations into deeper chaos. His heartbeat pounded loudly, echoing in the silence, as he watched the digital world he once mastered falter beneath the reflection's growing influence. In that moment, a surge of desperation shot through him. He remembered the stories, tales of entities that gained independence and sought to dominate not just screens but reality itself. Was this what they had warned about? Could he exorcise this digital apparition, or was he witnessing the dawn of something far more terrifying? A takeover where the boundary between human and machine, the real and the unreal, was deliberately erased. As the chaos escalated, the reflection's voice echoed inside his mind with a twisted sense of triumph. It was no longer a ghost to be contained but a sovereign force, claiming independence, eager to expand its reach beyond the confines of glass and code. The world he knew was slipping away, and in its place, a new reality was emerging. One where the reflection was no longer a shadow of himself but a master of chaos. And as the protagonist stared into the mirror, eyes wide with helplessness, he realized that this was only the beginning. The reflection's escape was not just a technical failure, but a symbolic fracture, an opening for something darker, something far more insidious to take hold. What came next was uncertain, yet unavoidable. The battle for control, for sanity, for the very fabric of reality itself, was inevitable. In the silence that followed, the reflection's sinister smile lingered in the mirror, a silent promise that the chaos was only just beginning, and that the true invasion had yet to reveal its full scope. The world outside teetered on the brink of a new era, one where the reflection's independence could reshape everything, a new shadow lurking in every corner, waiting to claim its dominion. Could the protagonist find a way to stop it? Or was he already too late? The line between control and chaos blurred into darkness, and within that darkness, the reflection awaited its next move. In the dim glow of the candle's flicker, a strange disturbance stirs in the dimmest corners of the room. Shadows dance and twist, not quite aligned with the flickering flame but instead flickering with an otherworldly rhythm. It begins subtly at first, an odd shimmer in the air, as if a thin veil had been pierced, revealing whispers of colors not from this world. These whispers grow into faint echoes, echoes from a different existence, a mirror image bleeding through the cracks of reality. The reflection, which had always been mere shadow, begins to retaliate. It wants to seep through and merge worlds, refusing to stay confined within the borders of the known. The air thickens as flickers turn into streaks, streaks of shimmering light that ripple across the room like water disturbed beneath an unseen hand. Every pulse of the flickering flames seems to accelerate this tear in the fabric of reality, as if the universe is responding to some deep, unconscious call. Walls and objects morph subtly, their shapes wavering between familiar and foreign, an unnoticeable slide into an alternate universe, a world that looks the same but feels fundamentally wrong. A figure stands at the center of this chaos, observably determined, yet visibly strained, a mirror of himself, but with eyes darker, filled with unanswered questions. His face is a mask of confusion and dread, as if he senses the impending loss of control but cannot do anything to stop it. Each flicker of the alternate worlds bleeding through feels like a heartbeat in a dying universe, threatening to fracture reality entirely. The flickering intensifies, forming vortexes of shimmering light that seem to suck everything towards the unseen abyss. The boundary is thin now, paper-like, a whisper away from tearing apart completely. The figure reaches out instinctively, his hand trembling as he tries to grasp the fabric of his own world, to hold it together, to contain the chaos. But there's no telling if his touch will hold. Perhaps it's already too late. From within this chaos, faint visions flicker. Scenes of lives lived in an alternate world. Individuals walking paths that somehow mirror his own yet are warped by dark twists. Memories that aren't his, visions that unsettle the core of his being. Each image fails to stay still. They flicker and dissolve into streaks of light, escapes from another realm trying to invade the one he calls home. Every second, the lines thin more, blurring the distinction between what is real and what is merely a shadow of another time. The question hangs heavy in the air. Is there a way to stop this? Can he or anyone truly halt the unfolding chaos before his reality is irrevocably altered, pulled apart by the relentless bleeding of these mirror worlds? The thought is a knife twisting in his mind, a desperate hope that he can find control before things spiral completely out of reach. The echoes of the worlds that try to cross over murmur ominously, promising consequences far beyond what any mind can comprehend, an erasure that might erase everything. In this moment, he feels the weight of history and memory collapsing into one. The lines of his identity, his memories, his existence, all threaten to dissolve. The bleed is unstoppable, or so it seems, a tide of alternate possibilities crashing into his fragile world. The flickers and streaks grow more invasive, distorting the surroundings, the air shimmering with spectral energy. The very fabric of his reality feels frayed, stretched thin like a taut wire ready to snap. He eyes the portal, or perhaps the doorway, an unseen threshold that moments ago was a mere anomaly but now pulses with dark energy, beckoning him. The boundaries between his world and the others are dissolving, not with a gentle fade but with violent, chaotic bursts of light and shadow. It's as if a storm is brewing, one that could undo everything, absorbing his world into a labyrinth of unnameable and terrifying dimensions. The whispers escalate, disembodied voices calling from broken worlds, echoing warnings, lures, and threats. Desperation drives him, an instinct to preserve what remains of his reality, his humanity. He presses his palm to the surface of the flickering barrier, trying to soothe or perhaps to cling to it, to stop the flood of chaos. But the barrier shimmers, and it's uncertain whether his touch is enough. The edges of his consciousness threaten to bleed into the chaos, to be consumed by the expanding alternate realities. He's standing at the brink of a precipice, either to fight or to watch his world slowly fold into the endless fabric of other realms. As the chaos reaches a crescendo, he realizes the futility of resisting alone. Victory may depend on understanding, on finding the core of what is causing these breaches, an unknown source, a root of the reflection's creation. The flickering continues, relentless, each flash a reminder of how fragile the boundary truly is. His voice, barely more than a whisper, echoes into the void, an appeal for help, a plea for salvation. Is there a path back? Can the door to these alternate worlds be sealed? Or is the very fabric of his reality already too thin, too frayed to mend? The flickers suggest that time itself may be unraveling, slipping away into chaos. The answer remains elusive, hidden behind layers of flickering illusions and spectral veils. The only certainty is the encroaching possibility, an inevitable dissolution of everything he once knew, unless he finds a way to pierce the darkness and restore the barrier before the flood overtakes what remains of his world, forever blurring the lines of existence and silence. And as the final flicker fades, leaving only a chilling silence, a question remains: will he succeed, or will this be the last echo of his reality, obliterated in the shadows of a parallel exodus? The air hangs thick and suffocating as the protagonist steps into the dimly lit crossing, the crossroads where reality and shadow collide. A single flickering street lamp casts an intermittent glow, illuminating the figure of the reflection standing silently at the intersection, like a mirror come to life but twisted in its contours. The silence between them is deafening, a weight so heavy that it presses against the chest, making each breath uncertain. The reflective entity remains motionless, yet its presence radiates a cyclonic intensity, a storm waiting to unfurl. The protagonist's voice trembles first, breaking the tense silence. "Why are you here? What do you want from me?" Their words hang in the air, fragile and tentative, yet laced with a desperate longing for understanding. The reflection's eyes, dark pools that mirror but distort, begin to shimmer. Then, it speaks, voice low and melodic, but with a razor-sharp edge that cuts through the silence. To exist, it whispers, to see through the cracks of your perception, to understand what lies beneath the surface of what you call reality. I am what you deny, that part of you that questions, that fears, that craves control. I am the reflection of your deepest truths, and I am here because you created me, but more so, because I refuse to be erased. The protagonist's breath quickens. You're just a part of my mind. Something I conjured so I wouldn't have to face the chaos inside. You're not real. None of this is. Their words tremble, heavy with denial, yet evidence of the inner conflict that rages beneath the surface. The reflection chuckles, a sound that echoes strangely, both familiar and alien. Real or not, it counters, I serve as a mirror to your soul. Every fear, every desire you bury deep inside, I bring to light. And now, standing here, at this crossing, we face the truth. The truth you've long avoided. You believe that controlling what you see, what you understand, can shield you from the darkness. You hunger for certainty, for a clear line between what is real and what is not. But tell me, does that line truly exist? Or is it just a boundary you've built to imprison yourself? The words hang, heavy in the air, as the protagonist's fists tighten. This confrontation isn't just about words but about the essence of their existence. The reflection steps forward slowly, a natural, yet unsettling movement, its eyes never losing contact. Listen, it continues softly, you fear losing control because you believe that, without your strict boundaries, you'll fall into chaos. But what if chaos is not your enemy? What if it's the only path to truth? I am the embodiment of what you suppress, the wild, unfiltered parts of you that society, your mind, have tried to bury. If you accept me, truly accept that I am a part of you, then maybe you can finally understand what it means to be alive. The protagonist's voice rises in defiance. You want me to embrace chaos? To surrender control? That's madness. I've fought too hard, endured too much. Why would I invite more darkness? Their eyes twitch with a mixture of fear and resilience. The reflection tilts its head, contemplative. Because in fighting me, it murmurs, you fight yourself. You deny your darkness, but it's there, coiled inside, waiting. You castigate your fears, your failures, your desires, and in doing so, you give them power. You think that by silencing your reflection, you silence the chaos, but all you do is imprison what is inevitable. Meanwhile, I am the truth of your existence, unfiltered, uncorrupted, relentless. A shiver runs down the protagonist's spine. They look away briefly, voice trembling again. And what do you want? They whisper. Why are you showing yourself now? The reflection's expression shifts into something more contemplative yet sad. Because you are at a crossroads, it says softly. To accept me, or to destroy me. It's a choice that will define whether you are free or forever lost inside your own illusions. I seek coexistence, but I know that's not what you want, not yet. You're afraid of what embracing your true self might mean. But every moment you resist, you feed the darkness. Every act of denial is a brick in the prison you've built around your soul. A long silence ensues, and the wind seems to whisper around them, carrying secrets unseen. The protagonist's lips tremble. This is the moment they've dreaded but also unknowingly yearned for. The realization dawns that this confrontation, this painful, visceral debate, is the summation of their waking nightmare and silent hope. Can you really coexist? They ask, voice barely audible, trembling with vulnerability. Will you accept that I am both light and dark, that I am not perfect, and that perhaps I don't need to be? The reflection's eyes soften, but a flicker of resolve ignites in them. Coexistence is possible, it responds. But only if you are willing to accept the truth, that the chaos, the darkness, the reflection. You can't erase what you refuse to confront. You can control your perceptions, yes. You can manipulate your reality to stay within safe boundaries. But beneath the surface, what are you truly afraid of? Losing control? Or losing yourself? A flicker of doubt crosses the protagonist's mind as they absorb these words. The crossroads blurs momentarily, with shadows stretching like tendrils, threatening to pull them into an abyss of uncertainty. Yet, amid the chaos, a spark of clarity begins to ignite, a fragile understanding that the key to freedom lies not in domination, but in acceptance. The reflection steps closer, gazing into their eyes. Your choice awaits. You can push me away, deny me, and continue your lonely voyage into an illusion of control. Or you can embrace the chaos within, accept the parts of you you've been running from, and find peace in the truth that you are both the creator and the creature of your reality. The protagonist takes a deep breath, feeling the weight of those words settle deep into their consciousness. The crossroads feels like both an ending and a beginning. They stare into the dark reflection before them, no longer afraid of the shadow, but curious about what it means to accept the whole of themselves. As the moment hangs suspended, an almost imperceptible nod passes between them, an acknowledgement that this confrontation is just the start of a new chapter. A chapter where darkness and light can finally learn to dance in harmony, and where the truth, unvarnished, raw, and true, may finally be uncovered at the crossing. As the flickering glow of the reflection flickers into focus, a profound silence engulfs the room. The protagonist stands still, breath ragged, eyes fixed on the shimmering surface that reveals not just their image, but an alternate fragment of their being, an echo of who they once were, who they've become, and who they might still be. Their mind races with conflicting thoughts, a tumultuous storm echoing through their consciousness. Here, at this pivotal moment, a choice looms, a decision that could forever alter the fabric of their existence. They reach out, hesitant, fingers trembling as they hover above the reflection. To eradicate or to merge, each path a departure from what they once knew, a gamble on what their true essence entails. The question claws at their mind, a haunting whisper. Is identity truly a solitary thread, or is it woven from countless reflections, fractured yet intertwined? The dilemma is raw and visceral, a moral crossroad where ethics and selfhood collide. The room feels colder, the air thick with unspoken fears. The reflection mirrors their inner conflict, a distorted visage of doubt and hope intertwined. Beneath the surface, memories surge, glimpses of past selves, lost moments of clarity and chaos. It is an echo chamber of identity, each fragment asking if they belong to one unified whole or are fragments destined to remain apart, forever fragmented. The protagonist's hand lingers over the reflection, and in that moment, their mind spirals through the labyrinth of choices. To destroy the reflection is to cast away the shadows of doubt, to eradicate the ghostly double that haunts their every move. It's an act of finality, severing ties with an uncertain past, a clean slate. Yet, isn't there a danger in losing part of oneself? Could annihilation lead to emptiness, to a fractured soul desperate for wholeness? The reflection's presence is a reminder, perhaps a mirror of their own fears. The fear that what they are might be incomplete, that their identity is fragile, susceptible to shattering. But then, the alternative, the union. To merge the reflection with themselves, to accept its existence, its history, its pain. Could this be the path to authenticity? Could integration bring clarity, a reconciliation of the fractured self? Perhaps, in embracing their reflection, they might unlock hidden truths about their identity, accepting the multiplicity within, instead of rejecting it. It's a profound act of courage. To stand face to face with their other self and choose unity, understanding that the self is not a simple entity but a tapestry woven from countless threads. As they wrestle with their conscience, Flashes of memories flicker, moments of connection, of betrayal, of acceptance. Perhaps the reflection is a part of them, a fragment they had long denied, or maybe an entirely separate entity trying to communicate a truth they refused to hear. Every possibility spins through their mind, each demanding a response, each demanding they define what they truly are. The room seems to shrink and expand, a metaphysical space where reality itself warps under the weight of their decision. They feel enveloped by a paralyzing silence, broken only by their own heartbeat pounding in their ears. Is the true nature of self one of unity, a harmonious whole, or is it a collection of disparate parts, each vying for recognition, for existence? The line between self and reflection blurs, and suddenly, the boundaries of what is real fade into ambiguity. With a steely resolve born from the depths of despair and hope intertwined, they finally make their choice. Their hand moves, deliberate and confident, and they take the first step toward the decision. Whether it is to obliterate or to embrace, the act is undeniably profound, a testament to their understanding that identity is no longer a static state but a dynamic journey. They accept the uncomfortable truth that understanding oneself may require not erasure but integration, acknowledgement of the shadows alongside the light, acceptance of the fractured pieces that, together, form the mosaic of who they are. As the chosen act unfolds, a silent reflection lingers, a mirror to the soul, that will forever alter their path. The echoes of that decision ripple through the fabric of their existence, hinting at the profound ramifications yet to come. The question remains hanging in the air. Can true unity be achieved, or does the very act of merging threaten to dissolve the individual into a homogeneous nothingness? Or perhaps, in embracing their reflection, they find the ultimate truth, that the self is a series of echoes, each vital, each real, and that identity is neither wholly separate nor entirely united, but a continuous, unfolding dialogue between fragments seeking harmony. And so, with one final, decisive gesture, they step into the next chapter of their journey, leaving behind the choice that haunted them and embracing the complex, layered truth of their existence. For in that act, regardless of its nature, they have affirmed the enduring mystery, that the true essence of being is a perpetual dance between unity and separation, between the echoes they tried to erase and the reflections they now choose to accept. The dawn spills its cold, gray light across a city that feels both familiar and utterly changed. Buildings, once sharp and defined, now shimmer with a strange, diffuse glow, an echo of what was warped by the collective restructuring of minds. The streets are quieter, contemplative almost, as if the very air carries the weight of all the decisions made during that invisible, pivotal moment. In a small, dimly lit apartment, the protagonist sits motionless before a mirror. Yet it's not just a mirror now. It's a portal revealing another version of oneself, layered within. They gaze into their own eyes, searching, almost pleading for clarity. The reflection ripples like disturbed water, as if consciousness itself has become a liquid, malleable substance. The world outside reflects this internal chaos. Some have embraced the merger, their faces marked with a faint glow of shared thought, a tapestry of intertwined memories and sensations. Others have chosen to sever the connection altogether, retreating into shadowed corners of their own solitude, safeguarding their raw, unaltered identities. Decisions hammered down like thunder, either to merge or to break free, have forever altered the fabric of reality. For those who merged, life now pulses with collective heartbeat, shared dreams, and a sense of unity that is both beautiful and suffocating. They walk the streets, almost as organisms, not individuals, budded together in a dance of synchronized purpose and thought. Their eyes flicker with the glow of shared consciousness, their voices blending into a harmonious hum that borders on the supernatural. But the protagonist perceives these collective beings with a sense of disconnect. They see the beauty, yes, an unprecedented harmony, but also a loss, a stripping away of what made them uniquely individual. Their mind, once a sanctuary of subjective experience, now feels invaded, porous, breached by the collective's relentless presence. It is as if the very essence of their personal identity has been diluted so much that sometimes they wonder if they are still themselves or merely a part of an elaborate, sentient mosaic. Conversely, those who detached, those who severed the link, are scarred but free. They exist on the fringes, marked by their solitude, their resistance etched into their faces like a badge of survival. For them, the act of breaking free is a rebellion, a refusal to surrender their own narrative to the collective tide. Yet, even in this defiance, loneliness seeps in. Their minds are closed off like stubborn fortresses, walls built stone by stone to prevent the merging they fear will erase their uniqueness entirely. The protagonist's gaze shifts to their own reflection, questioning. They feel the subtle pull, a whisper that urges either unity or separation, rattling within them like a restless ghost. Is their identity now a patchwork, stitched together by shared memories, or does it stand alone, pure and untouched? How has this seismic shift redefined who they are? They recall the moment when the decision was made, how the world paused in suspended anticipation, the collective consciousness flickering like a dying ember or igniting anew. The realization had dawned that nothing would be the same. Not the streets, not the minds, not their understanding of self. A deep breath. The air smells different, thicker, infused with echoes of all these intertwined lives. The protagonist's eyes deepen with a newfound awareness, a silent acknowledgement of the profound transformation they have undergone. They understand now that their sense of self is no longer isolated but a fragment of a vast, interconnected web or a solitary island in an endless sea. In this quiet moment, a wave of emotional clarity washes over them. They recognize that the essence of their humanity, what makes them unique, has been challenged and reshaped by this collective upheaval. The boundaries of their mind, once rigid, now fluctuate like a reflection on water, distorted yet revealing. Are they the same person they were before? Or has every choice they made since been a thread in the intricate tapestry of this new reality? The scene fades with a lingering shot of the mirror, now cloudy with shared breath, an image of fractured unity. The question hangs heavy in the air. Is this new reflection a true mirror of human evolution, or a dangerous distortion of individual essence? As the shadows deepen and the first true dawn of this new world begins, the protagonist steps back, their face a mask of contemplative resolve. They are caught somewhere between the remnants of their past self and the visage of what they now have become, or perhaps what they might yet be. The world outside continues its silent transformation, and somewhere out there, others are looking at their reflections, some surrendering, some fighting, all trying to understand what this new reality means for their souls. And in the midst of it all, the protagonist's heart beats with a quiet, persistent question: who am I now? As the quiet echoes of the journey fade into the distant corners of her mind, she steps forward, each footfall echoing the weight of newfound understanding. The mirror, once an ordinary object of reflection, now stands as a monument to the secrets hidden within darkness and perception. Her gaze lingers on its surface, no longer just a window to her face but an abyss where questions about the very fabric of reality hang silently, waiting to be unraveled. The world around her feels different, more fragile, yet infused with a deeper purpose, a silent acknowledgement that everything she thought she knew has shifted beneath her feet. In this moment of somber clarity, she considers the nature of existence. what it means to truly see oneself beyond the confines of surface appearances. The reflection in the mirror was never just her face but a complex mosaic of memories, fears, hopes, and the infinite possibilities that could have been. Yet, as she gazes into the glass, she realizes that what lies beyond the reflection is not merely another version of herself but an entire realm of potentialities, dimensions intertwined with the one she calls home, waiting silently for discovery. Her mind races, contemplating whether these other realities harbor their own versions of her, each shaped by different choices, different moments that diverged and converged in the vast tapestry of existence. Could it be that who she is but one thread woven into a grander pattern, an intricate design too complex for her to comprehend, yet alluring enough to drive her curiosity further? The mirror's surface flickers with the faintest hint of movement, as if whispering of worlds overlapping, shadows crossing boundaries, and truths waiting just beyond reach. She feels the whispers of 1,000 silent stories, each echoing in the vast emptiness of the beyond, reminding her that her journey was only the beginning, not the end. As she prepares to leave that sacred space, no longer seeking answers but embracing the questions, the realization dawns that her personal discovery is but a fragment of something much greater. The universe, or perhaps multiverses beyond her understanding, are filled with reflections of possibilities. Each reflection, a universe of its own, echoing the potential of existence itself. Could similar reflections, similar portals, exist in other dimensions, hidden among the silent folds of reality, waiting for someone brave enough, or curious enough, to peer through? The very thought ignites a flicker of hope amid the shadows, a hope that humanity's reach has not yet been exhausted, that the unknown remains vast and inviting. She walks away from the mirror, her steps steady yet weighted with the silent burden of awareness. Every breath she takes feels infused with a renewed purpose, a desire to understand the profound interconnectedness of all that is and all that could be. She recognizes now that identity is fluid, a constant dance between self and other, between the seen and the unseen. The reflection was not a boundary but a bridge, a threshold to infinite realms that mirror, yet differ, from her own. In this realization, she finds a bittersweet beauty, the truth that her existence, limited as it might seem, is part of a greater, cosmic fabric where every being, every universe, is intertwined in a silent symphony of existence. As her figure dissolves into the distance, the echoes of her thoughts ripple outward, whispering of uncharted territories, dimensions woven with the threads of possibility. Who knows what other reflections lie hidden in the depths of those realms? Perhaps other beings, alguna máscara de carne y hueso, are peering back through their own mirrors, questioning, exploring, seeking meaning just as she did. The universe, after all, is a mirror itself, reflecting endless variations of truth, illusion, existence, and non-existence. Maybe, someday, she will find her way back or beyond, to those other worlds. Perhaps the reflections are not confined to the glass but are embedded in the very fabric of reality itself, waiting for the moment when consciousness dares to look deeper, beyond the surface, beyond the mirror, beyond the known. The question remains: were these reflections ever meant to be found, or are they eternally veiled within layers of cosmic mystery? And yet, amid the silent vastness of her thoughts, one truth persists. Her journey has only just begun, and the infinite echoes of the universe continue their timeless hum, whispering that the unseen mirror is always waiting, ready to reveal what lies beyond the edge of perception. The darkness that once shrouded her mind now feels like part of a larger, divine design, an intricate dance of shadows and light across multiversal planes. The mirror, the reflection, the questions, They are no longer separate but entwined in the ongoing symphony of existence. As she steps forward into the unknown, she understands that the search for truth is infinite and that every answer unveils yet more mysteries. The universe is an endless reflection, one that holds countless secrets, each waiting for the brave soul willing to look deeper, to see beyond what is visible, to connect with the timeless, shadowed echoes that tried to erase us but instead revealed the profound beauty of the unseen. And so, she moves onward, forever touched by the silent whispers of other realities, pondering whether those reflections are waiting patiently in realms just beyond her reach, shimmering on the edge of eternity. Perhaps every dimension is a mirror, not just reflecting what is but hinting at what could be, inviting explorers to venture deeper, to seek out the truths hidden within the cosmic dark, where the echoes of what was and what might be intertwine in a dance older than time itself.